If you think the economy hasn't gotten bad enough, well, then think again. Right now, it looks like someone just destroyed the world of finances. And within the last few months, the stock market has lost more than $9 trillion, which is one of the biggest losses in modern financial history. Debt is right now at record high levels. Businesses, well, they can't afford rent, and bankruptcy is on the rise. Many economists have stopped saying that the recession is coming. Instead, they're now saying that the recession is here, and they're saying that it's gonna hit really hard. Even the CEO of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, is really concerned. And according to him, well, then we should prepare for the worst. However, within politics, the story is completely different. The world's largest leaders are trying to say that everything is under control, risking the financial safety for millions of people all around the world, including you and I. Before I go any further, well, then I would like to say that making a video like this one takes a really long time. So if you actually like today's video, well, then please press the like button on the video and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this one in the future. With that being said, well, then let's move on. The financial news is not looking good for the global economy. And even though I do know you've been hearing this a lot lately, then in order for us to educate ourselves about how bad the situation could actually get, well, then we do need to look at the numbers. Over the past year, more than $9 trillion have been lost from the stock and bond market all around the world. This is a huge number, especially when you're comparing it to the recession in 2008, where the stock and bond market lost roughly $2 trillion over a similar one-year period. Meaning that the current situation is almost 5 times as bad, even when adjusted for inflation. Next, Americans are currently in a record high amount of debt. And the national debt just crossed $31 trillion for the first time ever in history. Meaning that bankruptcy is on the rise. When it comes to debt, well, then the scariest thing is around mortgages. Wells Fargo just announced that new mortgages are down by 90%. Which is illustrating just how difficult getting a mortgage actually is and how unaffordable it has become for the average family to own a home. And for the people who already have a mortgage, well, then defaults are on the rise all around the world. And the last thing is that due to everything that's going on around us, well, then we're basically forced to dip into our savings account. And recently, the personal savings rate in the US hit a level of 3.1%. Which is the second lowest it has ever been. And this is not even everything that's going on within the economy. Right now, a third of small to medium-sized companies cannot afford to pay their rent anymore, with 37% of small to medium-sized companies becoming delinquent in October. In Canada, the number is 42, which is even worse. The industry that is suffering the most is the restaurant businesses, with nearly half of the companies operating here unable to pay their rent last month. What is going on is not only affecting the smaller companies, the larger companies are also being heavily impacted by what is happening. Amazon just made history by being the first company ever to lose $1 trillion in value, which has led them to laying off roughly 10,000 employees. Mark Zuckerberg has lost $100 billion this year, and he lost $11 billion in one day alone. And Meta just laid off 11,000 employees. Stripe just caught 14% of their entire workforce. And Elon Musk, who recently bought Twitter, just fired half the workforce. And he even stated that the company could go bankrupt if it doesn't get more cash. So obviously all of this looks really bad for individuals and for companies. However, certain politicians are still trying to convince us that all of this is only temporary and that they have the perfect solution to make all of it go away. This is actually one of the biggest problems right now. I believe that politicians are risking the financial safety for the majority of the citizens just because they don't want to look bad publicly by saying that the financial systems are on the edge of a complete collapse. They should be preparing the citizens for the serious consequences that this recession might have. Most economists right now agree that we are in a recession, or at least very close to being in one. And despite how bad things are already, well, then is the IMF warning us that the worst is yet to come. Jeff Bezos is encouraging people to hold on to their money, even though his company is very dependent on people actually spending their money. He believes that people should save their money for when this recession arrives at full speed. And Jeff Bezos isn't the only one. 9 out of 10 CFOs are bracing for a recession. Actually, everyone is preparing for a recession, except for the politicians. Just a month ago, the president of the US, Joe Biden, said, "We are not anywhere near a recession right now." And he said that despite the fact that a recession is being defined as 2 consecutive quarters with negative GDP growth, just like what the US have. The UK's new Prime Minister is also saying that the economy is just fine and that everything is under control. Despite the fact that the UK nearly experienced a full-on financial collapse just a few weeks ago, with British market having lost $500 billion not long before that. Obviously, it is a major problem that politicians are not stepping up and telling the truth about what is actually going on, so that the citizens just have a small chance of preparing for what might come. Here is the big question. If we are in a recession, and if things are going to get worse in 2023, then how bad is it going to get? No one can really predict how long a recession is going to be or how bad it's going to get. What we can do is look at different outcomes if the world economy continues to lose its value. The first thing that will happen is that many people will lose their jobs, leading to a rise in unemployment, causing less money to flow around in the economy. Consumer spending will fall, leading to businesses having a lower income, which of course leads to companies lowering their production, which of course leads to a decline in GDP. We have 2 major problems, and that is the interest rate and the inflation. And the combination of the 2, well, that can cause further price increases in the future as well, making it even harder for the average person to afford rent. What also can happen is that the interest rates, well, they have been increased enough, and that should lead to a decline in inflation. And that could mean that some of the price increases we've seen within the last 2 years are going to decline again. However, even if some things are going to normalize in price levels again, well, then overall it is looking really, really bad. And I think that this recession could be more devastating for the average family than the recession we had back in 2007. But there are some things that are really important to remember when we are talking about recessions. Over the last 100 years, we've had dozens of recessions, people losing hundreds and billions of dollars, companies going bankrupt. But one thing has been constant through all of them, and that is that the economy has always recovered again. There is basically 2 options for us right now. We can either ride the recession out as victims and letting what is happening right now dictate our financial security, or we can choose to get educated. When looking at the past recessions, we have seen numerous of examples of people coming out ahead. A recession is basically a financial reset, and it is the best opportunity you will ever have to become rich, if you of course have the knowledge required. I have personally decided how I want to roll through this recession. I want to keep on investing, even though the markets are in free fall, because I do strongly believe that 10 years from now, I will look back on this and I will regret not having done so. That was all I had in today's video. Thank you for watching the video, and if you actually liked the video, well then please press the like button below the video and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this one in the future. See you in the next one.